Hey, how's it going YouTube? This is your boy Chosen and welcome to today's episode review. That is the following episode to the Great 189, where Kawaki and Garo went head to head, resulting in Kawaki winning but passing the hell out, now leaving him in a lab, which is exactly where we are starting this review. But before we start with that, I want to address a problem some have alerted me with when it comes to my videos. If this doesn't apply to you, I've put a timestamp for you to skip on ahead, but if this does, then let me start by saying I do apologize to anime onlys who maybe only watch my episode review videos. I thought that since it's clear I am a manga discussion channel that this isn't something I needed to address, but I guess those new viewers who maybe at one time just happened to watch one of my episode reviews without knowing what kind of channel I was, you know, when they got spoiled for certain parts, I get their frustration. So spoilers is something I'm going to take a bit more seriously on this channel. From now on in my episode reviews, I'm going to have timestamps that will be in the description. I believe you'll be able to see it in the bar on the bottom of the video. It should say like spoiler 1 or something like that. So as you are watching these videos, you know, whether this is your first time or not, if there is a spoiler coming up. Of course, it would be easier to just not talk about the manga, but one of the main reasons why I love doing these episode reviews is because there will be times to where I notice a reference, a build-up, or something that is a clear connection to the manga, which gets me pretty hyped up, and something that I just love pointing out. I love addressing these connections, especially when the anime makes a certain change, which they have done quite a lot. So bringing up these connections is not something I want to give up, but at the same time, it's also not fair to those who at least aren't given a heads up. So yeah, I think the method of timestamps indicating whether a spoiler would appear is the best solution for everyone. But anyways, back to today's video, and Boruto episode 190 is exactly the kind of content I was looking for. Extending the manga by giving us scenes with Kawaki, for example, that helps us further understand his trauma. Building up or hinting at relationships, which we'll get into later. All that stuff is so necessary to the story, because when those certain future manga parts take place in the anime, it's going to hit a whole lot different. I say this all the time, but the anime is the complete story of the series. Not discrediting the manga, because it's still important, but the anime does this part a lot better and helps fill those certain gaps that we may have questioned when reading the manga up until now. So I'm glad this episode and the next one is exclusive to the anime. I love it when they do this. But anyways, let's officially begin the review, and Boruto episode 190 takes us to the Hokage estate where Naruto, Konohamaru, Sai, and Shikamaru basically reflect on what the hell went down these past couple episodes. Ao and Mujino were both mentioned, and I like the reaction Shikamaru gave to hearing of Ao's betrayal, because if you guys remember episode 178 when Ao informed Shikamaru and Ino of their parents' last words, you know, something that Shikamaru just couldn't seem to let go without knowing, I'm sure he was extremely grateful for it. So to hear this whole time he was joined up with the terrorist organization that is Kara, it was clearly a letdown for what I imagined. Konohamaru also hands over the data scroll he used to take information from the container Kawaki was held in. This scroll, believe it or not, is going to be a very important piece moving forward to the story. And of course, we can't start the intro without discussing Kawaki, who they discuss also has a karma seal very similar to Boruto. Konohamaru decided not to bring him into Konoha due to the worry of him going on another rampage, which is reasonable after just seeing what the hell he was capable of. So instead, he's locked up at a lab in Ryutan. Sai brings up how, based on reports, he lashes out and has dangerous tendencies. Now of course, our boy Naruto shows sympathy, which instantly reminded me of the Shin arc, when Sasuke called him soft for taking it easy on the kids, and he goes on to say that, well, that's what they are. They still haven't learned what's right or wrong. And lastly, Kashin Koji's name gets brought up as the man who defeated Ao, who also performed the Rasengan, which is not a technique just anyone can use. However, suspicions drop as this gets called off for having some kind of connection to the scientific ninja tool, which was seen to be able to produce a Rasengan through Boruto. Intro passes by and we're taken to the lab that Kawaki is held at. In one room, Team Boruto, Katasuke, and Akta discuss Kawaki as he seems to be on everyone's mind. Akta mentions how different Kawaki's body is compared to the average. Things like rapid cellular division, which allows him to strengthen his body during combat. High regeneration. Katasuke even mentions how by the time they examined him since his big fight, most of his chakra had already recovered. Luckily for them though, it seems karma does require a lot of chakra, as Katasuke confirms that even though he has regenerated, it shouldn't be enough for him to go on another rampage. Boruto mentions that since they don't have his trust yet, locking him up like this is completely necessary, repeating the words of Konohamaru earlier. Katasuke also warns Sumire that if by any chance Kawaki loses himself in response, Nue might go on the attack, meaning even still, since the Jugo arc, she has a hard time controlling him. All of a sudden, we then hear a repeated giant thump noise from afar. It's revealed to us that it's Kawaki trying his best to break down the door, keeping him locked in. And it must be his instinct, because goddamn he won't give up. He literally doesn't stop even when realizing that the door is too much for him as of now. Katasuke shows his worry, but not due to the door breaking down, but Kawaki's physical state, saying he might end up breaking himself first. Kawaki then acknowledges that he just doesn't have the strength right now to do anything, but just then, smoke enters the room from above for what seems to be some kind of knockout gas that knocks him out. And in the same position he is knocked down in, is the same one he wakes up from the past. We are again taken back to the transfer between Jigen and what looks to be Kawaki's father. Nothing new was added in, but this scene was obviously needed to inform the audience what he meant, which were his last words exactly before passing out. He wakes up, however, back in bed, wondering why he can't use the karma seal, clearly implying that Kawaki doesn't know everything there is to the seal. And also, this is a good build-up scene that is going to be expanded on and explained in the future. Just then, Mitsuki, Boruto, and Sumire come through offering food to Kawaki. They aren't savages after all. Sumire offers to feed Kawaki, seeing as how he can't really hold the food. Now what happens next is very important again for understanding Kawaki's trauma. As he's taking in all these kind gestures, he can't within himself accept them for what they are. So as she goes over to feed him, he kicks down the food, knocking it all over, assuming that the food was poisoned. This parallels the hospital scene with Sakura in part 1 Naruto when Sasuke knocked down her apples, I believe, and then Naruto gets upset. That in a way is very similar to what happened here. The second thing I want to mention is, well, spoilers, a scene in the future that is basically the exact same thing. Kawaki is given the opportunity to live with Naruto, which is a very, very different lifestyle to the one he had before. His ideal world is nothing like what Boruto's is. So to him, like I said before, can't accept it and knocks down their table in hopes to escape. Very similar to what happened here. They're expanding his character and will continue to do so moving forward. Now as Kawaki kicks away the food, he starts growing suspicious of the group, saying things like how he doesn't know where he is, and basically saying in their own way they are setting up to harm him. Sumire, in hopes of calming him down, tells him where he is, which is the advanced technology lab. She worries that he must feel uncomfortable not knowing anything, so maybe reassurance would be suitable for him. And just as they leave, Kawaki calls back for them because he needed to use the restroom. Yeah, okay. We are taken back to Konoha where Naruto and Sai are headed off to the lab so he can meet this mysterious kid. I'm sure the reason for this was to calm him down and bring more reassurance to Kawaki that he's in good hands. Naruto must have realized the same thing that Sumire did, that being confined to a small place without any information while a world-threatening organization is after you is probably scary. So going over there himself and performing Takano Jutsu is surely the best medicine for now, at least. Back at the lab, Kawaki takes notice of the flashbang ninja tool we saw with Sarada back in episode 183. And as they keep moving on, we see two members of this facility holding a box of what seems to be scientific ninja tools of some sort. Kawaki takes notice of this and intentionally bumps into the member holding the box, dropping a bunch of the flashbangs. I thought at first this was the distraction Kawaki intended by having all of them explode at the same time, which would have been insane, causing literally everyone's eardrum to explode. They get Kawaki up and Sarada offers to pick them all back up, meaning she stays behind. At the bathroom, it seems like Kawaki is struggling to, well, you know, but then it turns out he was actually trying to set off the flashbang, which it does, blinding Boruto and Mitsuki while also blocking out their hearing. Sarada sees the smoke coming out from the men's room only to go in and see that Kawaki escaped through the vents. She alerts everyone at the facility of this matter but tells them to avoid the first floor if they don't want their asses handed to them. Sumire, however, heads on over to stop him since technically she is still a ninja and all, and also thinks it was her fault for telling him about this place which resulted in his escape. It is her duty to stop him now. She tells Nue to wait behind for obvious reasons that if things get bad, he'd go on the offense and strike at Kawaki. Nue listens and then doesn't. We then see Kawaki moving through the vents, still a bit paralyzed from the bomb, but not enough to hold him down. He escapes to a room full of experiments and a box, but specifically looks at one that catches his eye. Sumire heads downstairs in hot pursuit to Kawaki, and Kawaki heads upstairs in hopes of finally escaping. And then at last, the two cross paths. Kawaki thanks her for giving him the information he needed to escape, but doesn't actually mean it. What a guy. Jigen should have taught him his old tricks on how to speak to women since he was so good at it with Delta. You think he'd pass it on to him. Sumire tells Kawaki to put them hands up, knowing that he can't, and the two begin to fight it out. I won't lie, last week in the preview, I thought they were gonna have her lose this battle, which would have been crazy disrespectful if she lost to someone who can only use his feet to fight. And clearly, Kawaki hasn't watched the first arc of Boruto, as Sumire in just a few seconds pins him down to the ground. She is still a formidable fighter, so yes, in this given situation, Kawaki shouldn't stand any chance. But to all of our surprise, Kawaki sends Sumire flying back with the scientific ninja tool Gauntlet. We haven't seen since the Chunin exam arc literally over 100 episodes ago. I'm inclined to believe he used wind release to push her back as well. Nue, watching from above, gets upset, and just as Kawaki takes notice of it, it jumps on him and digs its teeth deep into his right arm, causing him to bleed like crazy. Sumire attempts to get him off Kawaki, but it doesn't work. Again, showcasing how even during all this time, there's been no progress within their relationship, showing why it's really important for her to stay by Katasuke until she's ready to return back to the village. Nue then yeets Kawaki back, releasing him from the restraints, but still the aftermath leaves him bleeding out like crazy. Kawaki questions in all hells why would you keep that thing as a pet, mentioning how she's quite a monster herself, just like him. The moment he said this, my suspicion on why back in episode 184, I believe, when Sumire didn't confess her love for Boruto could be right. I didn't want to say this because it was still a far-fetched and even is still now, but I believe there is definitely a possibility the series could be setting up Sumire and Kawaki. There was that one point in the manga that is yet to happen, but another example I could bring up with episode 184 is in the manga chapter that the episode covered. Sumire confessed her love for Boruto to Sarada, but this was changed to her not saying anything at all, with no explanation or nothing. I've always thought in the back of my head that there could have been a slight change due to Sumire's love interest possibly shifting over to someone else in the manga, which is why they didn't want to mislead the audience into thinking she'd end up with Boruto or would have a long-time crush on him. This line you just spoke could have possibly been foreshadowing this possible relationship. Anyways, Kawaki escapes, and I mean actually escapes out of the lab and into the forest with a trail of blood. He mentions how he isn't regenerating fast enough, but regardless, needs to escape from Jigen. Poor Kawaki, if only he knew what us manga readers know, that there is no escape from Jigen. Sumire commits herself to going after Kawaki, which we do see her in the preview knocked out. Something clearly happened to her. Maybe she encountered him and he whooped her ass. Who knows? We'll find out next week. I've already given my opinion on this episode in the beginning. I like how they started to further adapt extra scenes for Kawaki, things they've honestly even been doing with Kara as well. I'll always support videos like these, even though a lot of people I know kind of just want to see the crazy, flashy moments within the series. But just keep in mind, episodes like these are going to make them a lot better. Anyways guys, let me know down below how you thought of today's episode, and I'll catch you on the next one.